The new house is gonna be.
There's a couple of new houses. There are the majority of new houses on Randall.
Randall,
Yeah.
have they hooked up already?
The new ones are.
Yeah, I've been on Randolph since 1968.
Oh, you've been a long time.
Got a little fishing trailer.
That's before I bought the fish camp.
Yeah, he's clueless to what's
I
going
bought that in
on.
2000.
He's had so much,
Heard
so
that
much
on the
pain
fish camp.
there.
They were nice people. I tell you what, Jean Krieger, the one that bought it, she was nasty.
Happy Valentine's Day, Aaron.
I've never met anybody so nasty as her in my entire life.
I gave him that water yesterday.
I tell the story when I bought the fish camp when her husband died.
We looked at that, he said, take that.
Fell off. He attacked
We
her,
knew
drowned her.
where they got it.
And
Mr. Parker?
so right here,
Danny,
that
anything
sits
from?
underneath that.
I'm just here as the resource person.
Or do I call roll, call meeting?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, if they had a chairman yet,
No.
The doctor goes, oh, my God.
I'll facilitate that.
I just wanted to make sure I'm.
He's clueless to what's happening.
That's what I would do.
You said that?
That's right.
And he's not going to the doctor?
Not quite time. Okay.
So when I.
Yeah, that's what you do. You try. Maybe you take a nap.
Yeah, I always feel at 2 o'clock on the dot, ready for a nap.
The doctor.
My son's donkey and horse got out earlier.
Yeah, I bet that's what
I was so mad.
They just
Donkey
can't be
paid
hard
to get back in. Let me tell you what. Buddy went right in, no problem. He's so food motivated. I used his back when he went back in. Donkey,
Yeah, not so much.
We missed it.
I was so pissed off earlier. But she was having a great time eating all the flavor.
I'm like,
You got 8 buddies.
what, this gentleman,
Must be nice.
but he was giving me this.
No.
For what?
That's how my day's been going today.
I don't know.
You know what I had to do
Those are
with
more
that?
complicated questions.
When they started
I'm laying out
wanting to
beside
take
the
back places. It was right after Colonial Hospitals when she went back to certain areas. And I turned around and he was going in for those,
Do you still make saddles?
Scan, but
Don't make
anyway,
any
he was going
more.
back to her.
Oh, hit my hand,
And I
Oh,
said, well, I
hand,
need to go back with.
pull that leather like you used to.
Oh, no, you
I
can.
just
wait
got a
on
Shetland
Carol
pony.
Bobby. I said, have you done
I need a
any
saddle for
questions? Ask. Well, yeah.
No, I don't.
He's just a little guy though.
Yeah.
Any of them,
You
you know, Charlie.
no, I quit making saddles.
Then the last
I have to
time.
think my last saddle went to St. Cloud
The PP
about
test.
3 or 4 years ago that I made. I've been sitting around in the shop for a couple of years.
I turned around and they were going to go back and they said, look,
I still do some repairs and stuff like that, you know.
but it's pretty close for all timers. And then the technician said that was the magic word.
Well, if you decide to come out of retirement, you wanna make just
Straight
one
with
more.
him back there. I said, he doesn't.
I have, you don't know how many people I have telling me that.
But I live closer than they do.
Okay.
Just medical questions.
Yeah, you do, young lady.
Big decisions have to be made, you need to let me know.
Look at how little Buddy is.
You know, we'll discuss them and then, you know.
He's so tiny compared to his asshole that was out earlier. She didn't wanna, she was happy being out there,
Oh, yeah.
not where she belonged.
But yeah, but it's fun.
She had a great time. Look at that little guy though.
How tall is it? I mean, how many hands? You don't know.
Still on?
It doesn't look like bigger than many.
He's like, he's got.
Testing, testing, testing.
It's almost funny when he starts running.
So
You see, compared to the donkey.
Yeah.
it's on. It works.
So I'll measure him when I get home. I'll report
Say,
back.
Lee,
Yeah.
did you get my voicemail message?
I have not even checked mine yet. Sorry, it's been a little busy.
Sometime next week
For
for school?
for the
Internet.
RFC. Did he send me a quote by chance? Or
No, you need to talk to Joe Buck.
okay. I'll call him and see.
You have his number?
Yeah, I have his number from when I was doing stuff for the parks with him. So
I'll
I'll
write
try.
it down for you.
No, it's okay. I have from the parks, sort of.
For visiting.
Um,
Okay.
okay.
No big
I don't
deal.
know.
You know, it takes me 2 hours to drive up there anyway, you know. So,
I guess if you can't, if you just lose it.
he called me, sorry.
I just
Said
disconnected yours
everything
over
was
here.
good.
Okay,
And
thank
I
you.
was like, oh, okay, great, you know, I'll send you another time. So I got up there and I
Just about time.
I said, and
Your friends were?
Let's see in a moment, okay, we'll find out.
How's your wife?
well, you can't go up.
She put on war painting in this morning, so I guess she's doing pretty good.
Yeah, she's fine.
She's,
But
he's in
tell her
surgery.
anytime she gets up, puts on that
I
war
said,
paint, she's doing okay.
no, he had surgery.
Pretty much.
It was like Wednesday.
Howdy, welcome to No Kill.
No.
It's almost time, isn't it?
Pull the trigger.
Right, well, okay, let me, first call the meeting to order, and I'll facilitate up to a point, and then once you elect the chair and your officers, and then we'll have some further discussions. So the meeting is called to order. Can you call the roll?
Yes. Derwin. Smothers. Ron Eagle. Tom Pence.
Here.
Ricky Taylor.
Here.
Drew Ann Welch.
Here.
Charlie Dean.
Here,
Carrie Horning.
Here,
Sydney Reagan. Here. Derry Cummings is not present, but I did speak with him and he said he would be here.
Okay, I think that the first order of business is probably to organize, and things of that sort. So is there nominations for the chair?
I got one.
Okay,
This gentleman actually was the chair 10 years ago when we went through this whole process. And I have to tell you, I sat on that side, and it was confusing for both at that time. But this gentleman actually took care of it. We'd have 3 meetings, could have been real down to 2. This man was articulate, he was on time and on point, took care of business very, very nicely. I nominate him to take care of us again 10 years later.
okay, we have a nomination.
I'd like to recommend Ricky. I think we need some nice young blood, new ideas, and I think Ricky would be a good solution, a recommendation.
All right.
Derry Cummings is present. He just Derry Cummings.
Okay, is there any other nominations?
Motion to close the board nominations.
Okay, motion has been made, is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have what, 2? Okay,
I'm just following you, sir.
okay, I'm just saying, okay, we have two correct, okay? So, I'll let you give the names and we'll say all those in favor of.
I don't understand, I'm so sorry.
Okay, the first person that was nominated.
Okay, the first person was nominated and that was Ricky.
No.
No. That was Mr. Smothers.
Okay, Derwin.
All those in favor? My friend right here.
We have to make comments before.
Oh, you can make comments right now if you want to, or they're gonna draft you no matter what.
I mean, I think there's people here that don't know me.
Okay, if you would like to tell something about you. I assumed everybody knew everybody.
I have been in the Oak Hill area since 1968. I've been in the Harbor States, which we didn't come into the city about 25 years ago. I have served on many boards. Recently, I was chairman of the Southeast Volusia Hospital. I was chairman of the board of Memphis Hospital. And I was the negotiator with Admitted Health on the settlement. I've served on a couple of bank boards. And because of the limited time we have, I think my experience as a board member can get this. Normally you get a year to 18 months to do this. We got 3. I think I can run it through pretty quick. Thank you.
My name's Ricky Taylor, and I've only been in Oak Hill for 4 years, but I've been in Florida for 20. And family man and very in love with the city, the level where I live. So that's why I'm here, to try to give whatever I can give to help everybody. I'm a business owner too. I've owned several businesses. I've worked with many people. I'm also a realtor. And I don't have the years of experience that you have. So.
Good, you're not old.
But I'm young and ambitious, and you know, I'll try to help you all best I can.
Okay. Any other comments?
And we're gonna have to have a co-chair too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's always co-chair, vice chair, whatever they call
Right.
them nowadays.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint. Okay, we have the 2 nominations.
Just to confirm. So do I just announce Derwin's name and I say, for all in favor, say aye?
Now, raise your hand so we can count. All those in favor, right here. Okay, all those in favor, okay, well, we have 2 that raise their hand. All in favor of?
Taylor? Congratulations.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment, if I could. The reason why I didn't vote for you, I voted for Ricky. I think everybody needs to understand why we do certain things, because it's always
Right.
difficult when you've got 2 people running for an office. Ricky's young, but he needs a mentor. And so I'm thinking Ricky is the future of Oak Hill potentially. And so I much rather have somebody that has the potential to be in the future, but then have somebody such as you as a backup to sit there and give us guidance for this committee. That's the reason why I voted for Ricky as opposed to you. It wasn't, if we had one, you'd have been a great one to have just because of your sheer experience. But I think your sheer experience will help Ricky and everybody else here grow much better. So.
So just my comment would be, would you be willing to co-chair under Ricky to help him and guide him? Because I feel the same way, not any disrespect and not an emotional decision on my part whatsoever. But would you be willing to co-chair with him? So can I nominate for a co-chair and then we'll vote?
I'll turn it over to the chair now.
Chair, can I nominate for co-chair?
You see, my job's on mine. Right?
You can't influence him, he got to do his own, let him do his own thing.
And that's my comment, my nomination.
Yeah, this
Robert's rules.
Ain't no nominate now, he got the vote.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
No, I agree. Mr. Smothers has been here for a long time, full of experience, and I think we all can learn from him too. I would appreciate it if you accept.
So do you need a nomination in a second?
Need a nomination?
Just make it unanimous,
I'll go ahead and
we
nominate.
can do that in these type of meetings.
I'm sorry.
Unanimous consent.
Okay. Yeah.
or you can do it by consensus. Everybody is in agreement.
Anyone make a motion
Mr.
to?
Adams wanted.
Let's just go by consensus.
In here.
Yeah, you'd say anyone disagree.
Anyone disagree? No. All in favor?
In minutes.
Well, we've got it organized now. So,
There it is.
Good.
I do have a question, Mr.
Sure.
Martin. And I asked you, are you taking minutes or do we have to have?
Yes, I am taking minutes. That's
Okay.
why Mr. Adams would like y'all to use the microphone, so it'll be easy to.
Okay, I was just wondering if we needed to select somebody to be described or if you was gonna do that. That was my question.
Yes, sir, I will do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
For the purposes of the record keeping and all that, it's always best to have the deputy clerk and clerk to maintain the minutes, because those records have to be maintained forever.
Right.
This is being video, right? So that we
Yes,
go back.
Review,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
but it's not
Can I
straight.
make a suggestion?
No, that's fine.
Many of us live around town for quite a number of years, all that kind of stuff, and very seldom see each other, but can I suggest that as we're getting started, go around the room and ask everybody just a brief introduction? That's a good idea.
My name is Tom Pence. I'm a retired hospital administrator at Owl Indian Mountain Fish Camp. So I have a vested interest in the city of Oak Hill. People don't realize this, and I'm probably about the third or fourth highest taxpayer in Tradition County, or in the city of Oak Hill.
Yeah.
Y'all know that? And my taxes are $25,000, just property taxes by itself. And then I got sales tax, so I do have a vested interest in the city of Oak Hill. Because my business is successful, Oak Hill is successful, so.
Are you a resident?
No, my daughter's a resident, yeah,
Just makes sense.
yeah.
My name is Jerry Cummins. I was raised here. I've been here off and on for 57, 58, 59, 60, 64 years, 65 years, okay? I'm a retired national electrical engineer. This community is changing. It's growing. You can't stop growth, but you can control it. And that is what we need to do. We need to look at this charter and change the things that need to be changed. Because there are some things that need to be changed. We can't be biased, we can't be racist, we gotta do it for everybody. And the only reason I'm sitting on this board is because I would like to see some stuff changed for all of us. Not for one of us, not for that side, not for this side. It's for the entire city. And, you know, we gotta make it a safe place to live. Because if we're gonna have growth, it's gotta be safe. Or we're gonna have crime running rampant, and we're not gonna want that. So that's why I'm on this board.
I'm Drew Ann Welch. Most everyone knows me. I've lived in Oak Hill since 2013. My partner has lived here 30 years. I love it. I am heavily involved, I guess is the way to put it. I work on the Board of Trustees for Saints and Sinners Cemetery, which is the historic African American cemetery over here off Sand Avenue. I work as the researcher and community outreach for the board, and that's how I know some of you for the cemetery. I also volunteer for the Oak Hill Historic Board, working with the museum. And I love this town. I love the people. I love getting to know the people. I love the work I do. The work at the cemetery has taught me so much. I love when you're talking about reaching out and crossing the lines and being a part of everything. It's taught me so much about that and how much growth we can make in this community if we all work together.
You want me to go? Okay, I'm Carrie Burning. I moved over here in '05, so I've been here about 18 years roughly. Moved over from Kissimmee. Worked 20 years in banking, all phases, from being a teller all the way up to loan officer and lending and commercial and so on. Have worked at property management for 14 years before my husband and I retired and we moved over here. We moved from Kissimmee over here because we love the nice small town and community that we have over here, and saw how Kissimmee was destroyed by, as Jerry would say, overgrowth and lack of management. And this is a nice, safe community, and very involved with trying to see how we can keep it a safe community for everybody equally in this town. Okay?
Charlie Dean, I've been a resident of Oak Hill for 76 years. I'm retired. I was a Jacobs contractor, contracted to NASA for 41 years. I retired. I was utility director for Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, and Stone Space Center. I had the high voltage, low voltage, all underground utilities, wastewater, potable water. I also had business in Oak Hill. Like I said, I've been here my whole life. So I definitely have a vested interest in Oak Hill. So I didn't think I was going to beat Derry though in the years that he kept counting them up there. I knew I was older than he was, but I didn't know they were first. That's it, and then, you know, I know the community, from what it used to be, like everybody said, everybody's new. I used to be able to go to the post office, and everybody that came in there for an hour period of time, I knew them all by first name, they knew me. Now I go up there and sit for 3 hours and not know 2 people that come in that post office. So that's what I've seen grow. I've watched from 4-lane US 1 down through here. So seen a lot of growth in Oak Hill, and it's grown a lot since I was a kid. But you know, I just like Gary, I know it's going to grow, but I want to see it grow in a controlled manner to where we're not just overpopulating ourselves and we're just another bedroom community for Orlando or Daytona or something like that. So.
I'm Cindy Reagan. I moved here almost 2 years ago. I live right up the road. I moved here because my kids go to school at Burns, so I have a very vested interest in up-and-coming community and the children that live here currently. I'm heavily vested in real estate. I have 8 real estate brokerages in Florida and about 150 employees, as well as a title company and a mortgage company that I'm working on. So I'm very, very heavily vested in the real estate community and the growth that's coming. And I feel the same way that you guys do, that I would like to see smart growth that can be supported and not be overpopulated. Part of the reason why I moved here. I would like to, growth is inevitable. People are coming here. New Smyrna is overpopulated and expensive. Edgewater is overpopulated. We go south and it's expensive and overpopulated. So the gap's closing in, and without proper planning, I think we're gonna run into some infrastructure issues as things are coming here. And our residents that have been here for a long time, I feel like you guys also deserve the respect to keep it how you want it to be, right? So that's why I'm here.
Okay,
there you go.
Yeah. That's
I'll do the last roundup. My name's Ron Engel. I owned a pretty successful business all throughout the state of Florida and sold it and decided to move here to this community, mainly because at the time we were just starting the charter school, and my daughter at the time was one of the first kindergartners that went in there. So yeah, that was one of the reasons. I remember pulling up as getting ready to move to town and pulling up in the parking lot there and seeing all these little kids out there playing. Yeah, my daughter's going to this school. Since then, I still get involved with land planning issues and private practice, not for government or anything like that. I don't know if you've ever tried to do something like that, it's a nightmare, but what it does is it exposes all the things I've done is dealing with planning and zoning all throughout the state of Florida. But what it does, it exposes me and perhaps my insight to help you with this growth issue is something called the Future Land Use Designation. It's state-imposed. We sat here as city commissioners roughly 10 years ago, and we adopted a future land use designation. What that means is that people have property rights, and they came from the state. We can't interfere with that. You can say all you want about growth, but the future land use designation I have on my property, you have on your property, is equal to what we originally arranged at that time. You can make changes to future land use designations, but those are people's property rights. We have 416 acres down here. They have property rights. Garden over here, they have property rights. And for us to try to stop that, now there's other properties that are surrounding here, especially out Maytown Road. We don't own any of that property out there, most of it. But the county, through interlocal agreements, I did one, basically. Let me stop there for a minute. I used to be a city commissioner 10 years ago when this whole thing first came up.
For what city?
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I've had too many years already. Never a big beard. I've also been on the school board for 4 years. So yeah, I've got a huge background to bring and help each of us understand especially what property rights are and what we can do to enhance what I like to hear is infrastructure requirements. Now, the future land use designation has a myriad of requirements for a developer in order to be able to step foot in the door. That's everything, believe it or not, sewer and water, yeah, electricity, roads, yeah, but it's also schools and libraries. Now, most people don't realize that libraries is a part of that equation. Our library system here, I'm thinking is gonna need to be, yeah. Well, you know, they have an advantage here because you can walk in there, call them, get a library card, you can order any book you want, that's anywhere in Volusia County. Yeah. So you don't have to drive there to it. It's just educating somebody about that opportunity. It still builds into our future land use requirements. And I'm happy to be here to keep my mouth shut for a little while.
Good. I've learned a lot today. I understand exactly where you're coming from. That property west of here, quote, I remember when Glenn Storch carried that through the county and talked about the smart growth and all of the things that were going to occur all the way down into Brevard County, because that property owner not only owned Volusia, they also owned land down in Brevard.
I used to travel the state of Florida.
Yeah.
I met Glenn Storch in Miami, in the zoning department, going up and down the elevator 30-some years ago.
So so that piece of property it's sort of an interesting piece of property when you were listening to how many units they think will occur eventually on that property. It's going to be an interesting to be sure that you have the infrastructure in place.
Well, you know, I went to a meeting, I guess about 10 years ago.
Sorry, excuse me one second. I'm going to make life a little bit more difficult for you. The microphone has to be passed around.
Pass the microphone to see how it's going to pick it up.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not picking up too well from here, from where it is.
Test 1, 2. I went to a meeting about 10 years ago down in Titusville, and they put a number out there that was really, it was mind-boggling. They said from 442 to 5A, from Oak Hill to Osteen, 26,000 houses with infrastructure, shopping malls, hospital. It's going to be a whole nother city from 442 to 5A. So my thing was, you know, everybody is trying to annex west. Are we going to let other cities enclose us in? That's something we have to look at too. And
I can help with that real quickly.
yeah.
About 10 years, about 10 years ago, I was kind of instrumental in doing something called an interlocal agreement between Volusia County and the city of Oak Hill. At that time, we set a boundary of where we would be able to grow. Now, our biggest challenge was between Edgewater and Oak Hill because Edgewater wanted to, you know, put a boot in our, you know what.
They want to close us in.
Correct. And at that time, they had also annexed US 1. Why they did it, how they did it, I got no idea. But in the interlocal agreement that we got, our boundary is set right there on the north side of Oak Hill, never going to change. Edgewater can never change it. Now going to the west, that has nothing to do with the city of Edgewater. That's between us, developers, and property owners. We also, during that same time, in that interlocal agreement, we were able to annex properties into the city. I'll admit it, yep, I went over there and I'm the one that pulled the trigger. And what we did from that point in time is we annexed, you know where Indian Harbor Estates is? At that time, it was city, county, city, county, city, county. The reason I got involved with it because I thought, wait a minute, how many garbage trucks are coming up and down there? Because city, county. Yeah, there's six garbage trucks that are coming down the street every day and tearing up our roads. So that's where I started to get, something going in my noodle. From there, we had 3 separate annexations, and eventually there was roughly 280, almost 300 homes that are annexed into the city. That doesn't allow, that still is in effect, but the city has a program now where they're not going to forcefully annex people into the city. That can be changed. We can do that through the charter. We can walk down Maytown Road, and we can do that. The problem is that we still have to be mindful of what's called a future land use designation. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just. Okay, let's go back and let's look at what we're doing, because some of this is meats and potatoes that are over in the ordinance side, not necessarily related to the charter side. So I think that it's good that we begin to look at what you have and out there. Okay, Jerome has provided you with a document from the National Civic League, and it talked about charter and the charter review process and all of that. The National Civic League is a national-wide organization, and they have what they call the model charter, and they do a lot of things of that sort. But if you begin to look at what is in the document, yes.
I forgot to hand these out. This was my schedule for meetings, and I wanted to see if we could just review it to make sure it's
okay.
It's okay with everyone. Sorry about that.
Mr. Parker, wow. At the last meeting, there was a procedure thing came up that I think we need to get settled. Commissioner McGee asked if we could, all during our sessions, bring certain things to commission. All my reading and all my information I have, that's a complete no-no. Once the commission makes a committee, they should stay out of it completely, because this is supposed to be a charter for the citizens, not input by the commissioners. And that's the way I understand it. And I know the commission now is expecting us for every article to come to them with it.
Okay.
We're not going to do it, I hope.
Well, okay, I've worked with charter commissions in the past, and sometimes they say we're going to wait till the very end and bring our full recommendation forward, and then periodically they would come to the governing body and say we're working on articles, and they would give them the list of the articles and things of that sort, just as an update, but not asking for the commission's input. And so that's up to this body how you want to handle it, but most of the time you're right, is that generally they bring the articles back, but they do keep the governing body informed about what they are working on and where they are in the process and things like that. If you'll notice in my memorandum from last time, I asked the commission, were they going to provide you with some instruction? Because I think that is important. That at the beginning of the process, they've appointed the commission, and then they were asked, do you want to provide input into this body? For example, they could have said, okay, Charter Commission, I would like for you to look at and give you a particular article or things of that sort. And when I was here, they did not provide that type of input to you, which then gave you complete, charge of how you go about looking at the charter, what articles you're going to examine, or if you're going to examine all of them. So I think the process is that they wanted this body to make that determination, or that's how I interpreted their direction by saying, okay, they didn't give you specific direction. Secondly, I would just go through documents that you have been provided. You have that document from the National Civic League. Again, they are a nationwide organization, and when you read that document, one of the things that they say very specifically in that document is that charters are, even though we can provide you with general statements and general information about charters, all charters are uniquely individual. They should reflect the culture of the community, they should reflect the uniqueness of the community, all of those items. So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of understood what was, from the National Civic League, but that was the major takeaway that I have as I was going through it. Remember, your charter is yours. Okay, so, and it's unique. When I say unique, everybody's charter is a little bit different. There is some commonality. There's some legal language that the attorney's going to put in that when you pick up the Port Orange Charter, the South Daytona Charter, or any of those, you're going to see some similar legal language in those documents because the state prescribes some items that have to be covered, and you've got to be sure your charter complies with that. The second document that was provided to you was your existing charter. And I thought it was interesting when I was reading the very first part of the charter, it goes back and says, okay, when the original charter for Oak Hill was issued. That's part of your history. A lot of charters do not include that thing of history about the year that the charter was granted to this particular community, that particular community. And as Scott provided you last week, up until the 1968 Florida Constitution, all cities had to go and obtain their charters from the legislature. And so you were legislatively chartered to be a city, a town, village, or whatever. So I just kind of thought that was unique to have that historic data inside your charter. So from the standpoint, it kind of gives everybody, especially those that are interested in history, a frame of reference about when this community became a chartered community and a city under the laws of the state of Florida. You're free to change that, but I just kind of thought that was unique in the charter. The third document that you received, and I see some of you have, is a memorandum that I prepared for the City Commission, and there were a series of questions and a series of items that I included in that document to sort of help frame charter review. Okay, and hopefully that you had a chance to read it. Now, as I told you, do not grade me on grammar. Don't grade me on left out words. My administrative assistant that I had for 25 years, when I hired her, I said, Becky, your job is to make sure that it's grammatically correct and all the words that I left out are included. And so, by the way, I told her, I said, if the thing goes out wrong, it reflects on you. And she said, no, you wrote it. So so for 25 years, I never had a document that went out that was incorrect. Let's put it that way. So those are the three primary documents that you have that have been provided. Any questions on the documents that you have?
You talk about the charter that we have?
Well, I'm talking about the documents right now.
Okay.
Any questions on documents? Because I want to be sure if there's some questions on it, we can get them refined right now. And then as we move forward, then we'll build off of those documents, because those are your base documents. Yes, sir.
Is it possible to get documents for another city so we can review that charter to look at?
Okay, just tell me which ones you want, and we'll get them all. We went down from 19 pages down to 10. I'm sure there was a reasoning for that. But when I read this large document that we've got 41 pages,
Seems like there should be more in there. I'm sitting there looking at it, saying, I'm not really sure what we need to change, what we need to add. I think I'd like to have some examples of another city. I think I'm just asking you. Huh?
You just want a larger city, just.
Yeah, just something like you said, or use as a reference, or use
We're
something
real
that's
small, good luck finding somebody with 2,200 people.
Well, I understand that, but something comparable. In other words, you don't want to compare our charter to, say, Daytona Beach.
Sure.
You know,
It's a
but a
population of
reasonable
Osteen or
sized
Pearson.
community.
We can. What I would be looking for is probably cities that have been recently chartered. And I think that, regardless of the size, you can look at the new chartered language that cities have used, and then you tailor it from there and things like that. For example, two in Volusia that, and I won't use Deltona as the example, by the way, but DeBerry's charter was a fairly new charter, and when it was when it was adopted, it wasn't a very large city. Today, it's a lot different over in DeBerry. Something like that. And then there's some other cities out there that are small cities that we can get chartered, get them for you.
Does Pearson have a charter? I know it.
Yes, they do. And
because that's comparable to Oak Hill as far as size.
right. And I'll ask I'm a friend of their mayor over there, and so I know him. I don't know what the age of their charter, but I can get a copy of it. Lake Helen is comparable in size. Also, it's comparable in form of government. And we'll get a copy of that also. Ron, a lot of the stuff that was deleted is because state laws overrode what was in the old charters. There's so many state laws coming out all the time that about half our charter before 2014. Right. There was arguments all the time about that the state out of jurisdiction, we out of jurisdiction. It was a mess. So we tried to almost need the attorney here when you go to change something to make sure state law that doesn't already have something on it, because it wipes out anything you'd be surprised. Yeah, they're online.
Yeah, this is
Now. They're all online.
You might be a mess because it went down from 19 pages down to 10. I understand there's reasons for that. I just like to have something similar so I can at least read one so I can sit there and say.
Here's Lake Helen's right here. I can pull them up and we can. Do we have like an email? Are we able to email chain things or not?
Well, I would go through them and they would provide everybody with a copy. Just, okay, so just send it over to Jerome and he'll get it out to everybody. And that way, everybody's got the same information at the same time. But I'll also give Jerome some additional cities that I know that are working on charters right now, and what kind of language they're putting in their charters and things like that.
You mentioned one during the meeting that he was working with.
Yes.
Very similar to us.
Right. And Scott. Lake Helen, right. Yeah.
That was very similar to our charter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The form of government is very similar.
I don't know, I just found it.
When she brought up the thought about passing information around, you're familiar with the Sunshine Law, right?
Absolutely. That's why I say go through him.
Could you make sure we all, I know it.
Yeah.
You make sure we all hear that.
Okay. Let me review Sunshine Law real quickly because I think that is important. Okay. Remember, you can't talk to one another about what's going on in this body. You cannot talk to each other about where you are in the charter review process. You can't talk with any of you about what is, I like this particular provision, or I like this language, or all of that. So, so be sure you take very care about not talking to one another about your business. And I know you're going to meet, this community is small. That's correct. Now, in this meeting, y'all can have all that discussion. Yeah, but don't talk outside of this meeting. Okay. Yeah, as you recall from the hospital board.
I think this will solve our passed me a card and he probably was like, don't communicate.
You know, Rick has some future ambitions.
You do anything you want to this meeting.
Right now, I know, but that, all I did was create an ocean of, that she didn't know and that
Yeah.
I didn't know. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay, so as a general rule, okay, and that's why, okay, real quick. Okay, time out. Okay, as a general rule, if you're going to want items to be distributed to the body, okay, don't do it to each other. You know, you can provide it to Jerome, and then he can be, you've now created a public record, but you're not asking anybody for comment, and you can provide it out to everybody. My advice is, okay, technically, you know, the first person who sends hits all, reply all on the thing, okay, no, that's probably not a violation of the Sunshine Law. It's the person who responds then is the violator. But what is my advice to my governing body and to all of my boards and commissions, never hit reply all. Always go through the record keeper and allow that individual then to be because now you've got the record that's been created, and now we can then distribute all the information to everybody, and the public record has then been maintained during the thing. If you want it to be a record, don't provide your opinion in that particular email when you ask him to distribute something out to the other members of the commission, because that may be interpreted that you are communicating to other members your position, and you can only take your position when you're inside the meeting.
There's one of the provisions to the Sunshine that may not ever happen, but you understand that if I go to my neighbor and tell my neighbor to tell Charlie.
No, that's a conduit. You cannot use conduits. Okay, please, okay, and if someone approaches you, I always advise you, when you come back into the meeting, you say, oh, by the way, my next door neighbor contacted me and I told them I couldn't talk about this because he was trying to tell that one of the commission members had said this. So that now puts it on the record that you have, that you're not being used as a conduit, you have now disclosed. So things like that. I won't get into quasi-judicial because this board probably will never get into quasi-judicial because you're not a quasi-judicial board. But that's a whole different game that you play. Okay, so you now have the three documents. Okay, from the standpoint, before we move forward, let's look at the Charter Review Commission schedule. Okay, Jerome has put this thing out all the way into June. Okay, well, actually beyond that, but I think that's when your jobs are basically finished, and it now becomes bringing it forward to the commission and how they're going to adopt it and how it's placed on the ballot. Because we've worked back from the ballot date and with the supervisor of elections. So if you can look at those dates.
I pretty much have a meeting every week, except for that, the 20th of March for the supervisor of elections. We'll actually be using this room for voting. Yeah. So it's, I have it scheduled for each week, if there's for any reason you want to make a change, you can meet 1 week or something. I guess it's easier to cancel a meeting than it is to call a meeting.
I got a question. We got this meeting starting at 2 o'clock. I got a business, and it's gonna be hard for me to get here at 2 o'clock. Can we make all of them 3?
That's up to your chair.
That's up to you. That's up to this commission.
Your committee, yes.
I can cut it short and be here about 3. I might come in all dirty and nasty, but
Is that your motion?
yes.
Second?
Oh.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
I have no problem.
So put that
Anyone opposed?
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
Anyone opposed?
I thought you was retired.
No, just
Knock this stuff off. Knock this stuff off.
Come on, you guys, come on. All in favor, please aye.
Okay.
All in favor?
Discussion, you're good? All right, motion passes.
Motion granted.
3 p.m.
One question.
I have no
I just sent
problem.
the whole thing on.
But obviously, we're not going to be able to every meeting.
If that's an issue.
Well,
Where we just call in, or is it required that we meet every meeting?
Yes.
There's no way you can do that. Maybe
That's every week.
every week. Yeah, but I'm on vacation next week. I'm not against my vacation.
No, we understand that.
Well, that's what happens. There'll be different times for different reasons why people can't come up with a funeral, that's on vacation.
So
I
that's
guess
the
I'm just
one.
wondering, is there, I understand what we're committed to do is, as many as you possibly can, you can't come for 4 or 5, but is there a requirement that we should read or office committee?
Please remember, one conversation at a time so we can get everything on the record.
Okay,
One conversation at a time so we can get on the record.
okay, the question, okay, about if you can't come, basically, to a meeting. Okay, if you will communicate that with the clerk so that that can be entered into the official meetings and that then the commission would grant that is an excused absence. That's usually how that's handled.
And this is going to be how we have always done it with every board meeting
Right.
ever before. I can't come to the meeting today because of A, it comes before the commission, board, whatever you want to refer to us as. They say, good excuse, no problem, you're excused, and it references excused absence, not absent.
Absent, right.
Correct. And that's,
I just wanted to get that clear because I know at the last town meeting, Jerome was saying he wanted to change the word absent to mean excused absent.
correct.
Which is not within the charter. And how the charter was originally written was you called in, you gave your reasoning, the commission agreed that it was an excused absent or it was not excused. So it was recorded that way.
Right.
What I just said was that I wanted us to be able to clarify what was meant.
Right.
Not change anything, just make sure that it's understood, whether it's excused or unexcused.
Right, but
Well,
it still has to be recorded as excused
Yeah.
or absent.
Right, it's
Yeah.
just making
Right.
sure that.
Well, I will tell the committee now, I mean, and if y'all want me on, that's fine. But I do know there are gonna be 2 weeks in April, because I got grandkids that's graduating college that I'll be going to. Okay? And then in May, I got a grandson that's getting married in Missouri that I'll be going to. You know, so, you know, with them, I will make, before I make this meeting. I'll just be honest with you.
Okay. Well,
Can I say something? Do I need to buy my?
Yeah.
here,
Let me give it the mic. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And, you know, we're not young. Okay, some of us are young, but we're not young. We got grandchildren, we got children, okay? And things come up. So if we'll just, and everybody can't make the meetings, okay? And if we'll work together and let the ones know that miss, when we get in a meeting, what was discussed while they were gone. So we need to keep them in the loop in the meetings, or let Jerome keep them in the loop so we won't get that.
Well, if they would send
As a-
the minutes out,
Yeah,
if they send the minutes out.
then we'll be good.
You should be in the loop when you come back.
Right.
Well, the recording.
And the recording's available.
They're being recorded.
Yeah.
Send the recordings.
Yeah.
I'm still raising my hand to be recognized, I'm sorry. You did say this is being recorded, and so these recordings will be available. So if we're not here and we can't make the meeting, then you can always go back and you can watch it. That's the beauty of recording. Even when we have minutes, we can always go back and then you can bring questions. So I think that's helpful that these are recorded. Thank you. No, I'm passing it to him.
Question, Jerome, will these recordings be put on the website as well?
No, wasn't planning on putting them on the website.
Would a link be emailed to each of
Yeah,
us?
if you want a link, if you, like you've missed a meeting, or if you need to review something, we can email you a link.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So that might be a good thing to just automatically do for each meeting, and if we, we're clear on what the meeting was, and we don't need it, we can just delete it, but maybe just as a routine, do it that way, would that be?
That's up to your chair can decide if he wants that to be done that way, and then I can accommodate.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a hardship on you to do something like that.
We'll fit it in our schedule.
On the subject, point out,
So we can get it on the record.
again, it purposely was left out of the last charter, any penalty for missing charter meetings. There is no penalty. It was purposely left out of the charter, any penalty for missing the committee meetings, which I know has come up lately, but the city, the commission by ordinance can make that rule. But if you'll read the section on the penalty for commissioners missing meetings, that's where the 3 unexcused, that is the only place that the charter wanted that to apply at this point.
Okay.
For the last 3 charters.
Lately, they've had
Yeah.
some problems with committee members.
So, one thing I am pleased about your charter, it does require that your charter be reviewed at least every 10 years. That is extremely important for you to know, because as y'all found out the last time around, state law does change, and the charter then may have language that it now violates state statute or something like that. By requiring it to be reviewed on a periodic basis, on a scheduled basis, it makes sure that you keep it in line. A lot of charters do require that it provides a provision that the governing body at any point in time can convene a charter review body also. They may see something that has happened that they need to revise the charter, and they can do that. Many charters include that provision in their document. Okay, some things I would like to, during this meeting, I thought we may keep it fairly short. Yes.
I'd like a motion, like what Jerome said, it's up to the chairman. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the recordings of this meeting be sent to all members after the meeting. Not whether you're absent or excused or absent, but it just needs to go out so we all have a record of what occurs on a weekly basis. So I make the motion that we ask Jerome to send us a copy of those.
You got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Jerome, I don't want one. The reason why is because my email is stuffed. And the volume of one of those meetings that comes in, you can't send in a PDF. Please take me off that list.
What we can do is actually have it on OneDrive, which is in the cloud, and just give you a link to that location. So it won't actually be a file in your email.
There are ways of doing it, putting in Dropbox and all those types of things where then you can access them versus them coming directly to you and filling up your box. Okay. What I'd like to do is for us, to begin the process of going article by article in the charter. But next week, when we're together, I'd like to do form of government presentations. And there are basically 4 forms of government that are out there. Now, there are variations of it, but there are basically only 4 that are there. So we'll cover all 4 of the forms of government that are predominantly in Florida and in the United States. Let me just say one thing. The title of the governing body is immaterial. So commission, council, they all mean the same. So it's not like when I talk about the commission form of government, it is not about what the governing body is called. Because all through the state, you will find council manager forms that have a commission. You will find strong mayor forms whose governing body is called a commission. So the name is not material to the form of government. So I want to be sure that when I get into the discussion of commission form, I am not talking about what you call the governing body. Is that a good understanding?
Give us a definition of each form of government?
What's that?
You would give us a definition of.
I will, and I will give you the strengths and weaknesses of each, and so that you have a good understanding of each form of government. Yours is sort of a hybrid because you have a city administrator clerk, so that's why it's the uniqueness of the thing, and usually that gets into the discussion of what are the powers of the administrator clerk and what are the powers of the governing body. That's usually what the differences are between what you have and what is a pure council manager form. Okay, and so we'll get into that discussion. If that meets this group's pleasure, that's what I'll be prepared to do at the next commission meeting. Any objections to that? And that will probably take up over an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes as we go through each form and what does it look like, how does it operate, because each one operates differently.
Can I make a suggestion? If there's 4 different types, can we choose our type first?
Well, your type is a hybrid. Okay, so I can talk about the hybrid form also. And that's why charters are unique. And that's why I say the uniqueness of it. So you're more related to the council manager form than you are the weak mayor form or the strong mayor form. So when I discuss council manager form, then I will discuss how yours differs from that. Would that be okay?
Yes, sir, please.
Because that was kind of
efficient to go from where we are to look at what other options.
yeah. So I'll begin with that one. But understand, you're sort of a hybrid of that form of government, and same thing with Lake Helen. Lake Helen is a hybrid of theirs. But it's really defined in how you define the powers and authority of the governing body and how do you power the powers and authority that are granted by the charter to the administrator. That's pretty simple. But I will cover all 4 major forms. And somebody out there will say, well, what about it? There's a guy out in Oregon who's got this form. Well, I'm not familiar with every form of government or every charter that is out there, so that's why I try to cover the 4 major ones that you find in Florida and the hybrid. So I'll start with yours, and then I will move to the pure, okay?
So there's 5.
Well, actually, they're not 5. So so when you begin to look at, when you start looking at the charter provisions, it's kind of interesting is that you think you're uniquely different, but sometimes you're not. Okay. Then after that, what I'd like for you to look at is, in order to make the meetings very efficient, okay, you may say there are items in our current charter that we don't want to even mess with. We're okay with those. So that now you're narrowing the funnel down to the items that you believe are essential for this commission to come back to the city commission to say these are the items that we believe that need to be addressed in a charter item going to the public. Because you may find that, hey, I've got items in here, we could spend a lot of time talking about stuff that you would say, well, not really, we don't really want to talk about those. So I'll start with the form, and then my second question is, are there articles in your current charter that you're comfortable not doing anything at all with? Because y'all worked on them 10 years ago and got them down to 10 pages, 19? How many pages? It wasn't a lot, so.
Everything in that charter had some nasty discussions. You talk about the form of government, we must have spent months on that and could not get the committee to go strong mayor or strong, or anything like that.
Right.
They were so,
okay.
It would not fly.
Right.
So many people around here.
Well, ultimately, we had 3 commissioners that basically overrode one commissioner that gave you a hard time.
Right. Well, let me say just one thing about when we get into that discussion. Pay attention to what your current charter says are the responsibilities of each group. Okay, form of government, I can say I've got a commission, city administrator, clerk form, but when I read it, it may read as something else. So be sure we pay attention to what are the duties and responsibilities of each. That is really the form of government. And when you begin to define what are the responsibilities of the mayor, what are the responsibilities of the vice mayor, and all of those individuals right through there, that really is where the governmental structure is defined. So, and most of the time, that's where we should spend most of our time, is not arguing over, is it this or that, because everybody has an opinion on that. But look at the salient points of what is in your current charter, because it defines the powers and authority of each of those groups. So I will work through that with you. Okay, as Scott said, he and I probably need to disclose on the record, we've got a bias. But I will take my biasness out and I'll put on my former college professor side when I taught this and said, okay, here are the strengths, here are the weaknesses of each form.
Yeah, you bet. And we'll get into it, some unintended things, we ended up with a city administrator giving them most of the jobs of what you would normally give a city manager. Well, the administrator goes to a group of other administrators, and you ain't supposed to be doing that, you ain't supposed to be doing that. So it's very important to try to keep everything in line with everybody else and that type of stuff.
Okay, but just be aware that, as you're looking at it, look at the uniqueness of what you believe is the best interest of this community.
Well, one of the things that happened when it came down to a reality check, when you came up there and said, this is the way we want to run the government with an administrator, there's a checks and balances in there and good versus evil. And that's what you were able to point out, because we had arguments up there, basically saying no, no, no. Well, you came back and said, well, here's the benefit of doing it this way. And it just prevailed.
Yeah, I think it's important, no matter what change we make, we need to back it up, whether it's going to help the city or not, and sell that to the commission and the citizens. Don't just make one for personal reasons or personal good or anything else. You gotta have something to back it up.
Pass this on down.
Two questions. Are the 4 forms of government inside this charter guide for charter commission?
There are a few of the items that are in there. They give you some basic information, but I'll try to cover a little bit more.
Can you send us something out before we can read all 4 of them? Is that possible?
I'll do my best. Let's
No,
put it that way, because I'm working on, I've got a few.
No, I understand that.
too.
No, because
I'll try to do my best.
when I read through this, I only saw 2 forms of government. And I'm sitting there thinking, if you got 4, I'd like to at least to read it, so if there's any questions.
In that document, it does talk about the 4 forms are strong mayor. Okay, there's what's called the weak mayor form, and I think they actually had some background. There is the commission form and the council manager form. Those are the 4 basic forms of government that are out there nationwide. And it seemed like they mentioned them, but they may have not gone into the details on those. So I will come back with a document and try to give you as much information prior to that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have a game plan for our next meeting?
Got a suggestion too. You put out a list of questions about our charter. I would like to suggest that everybody go through that list of questions and highlight the ones you think that we really need to talk about. I'm talking about the members. And the ones we don't, let's red line out. I mean, that'll give us a little blueprint to start with, to start running down. But I read through them and they're pretty much what we need to look at. I mean, when I read through them, I don't know if everybody else read through them, but when I did, it was pretty much what I thought we needed to be looking at. Now, that's my suggestion. I don't know how anybody else looks at it.
Okay, why don't we just add that to the agenda? And so we will talk about forms of government, we'll talk about the questions, and then we'll look at items such as, okay, if you will each bring back that we've read the charter, and when looking at the charter, this is not an area we should spend a lot of time on or something like that, because because you've got a short period of time, and try to bring that funnel down to the salient items that are really important that we should spend our time on. Because you're right, normally a charter review is not compressed into this type of time.
Another one they did in the late 1990s, it was about 1.5 years. That's what it took to. I do know that.
So we'll come back with that as the agenda for the next meeting. Then I think it'll take us to all 2 hours or more. So I know, somebody told me last meeting he had to be home by 5 o'clock because the meal was on the table.
My wife fed me just before I left. She fed me just before I left the house.
Okay. Any questions that I can answer before I turn it back over to the chair?
Do you expect each meeting go around 2 hours, give or take?
Okay, when I'm facilitating, I don't like to take them more than 2 hours because there comes a point in time where you lose concentration. Okay. I used to work for a mayor who said anything over 30 minutes was too long.
Come to our meetings.
Yeah, 2 hours is good.
Yeah, 2 hours. Yeah, his comment was also my kidneys won't take me much longer than that either.
And if we come in, I think if we come in and we work 2 hours on it,
We'll get it.
and work 2 hours on it,
Yeah.
We'll get
and
it.
not have a 2-hour bull session,
We'll get it.
I think we can get through it pretty good.
Yeah, we'll get it.
And that's one reason I was suggesting the questions. That would give us something to actually pinpoint and work on and maybe keep us out of some other rabbit holes chasing other things that we don't need to that day. It's coming up later.
What kind of reporting as far as progress do you think our chairman should report back to the commission itself? Obviously, our city clerk has the ability to do that, but.
Well, your commission has access to the entire minutes. They have access to the recordings and everything else. So in fact, they're out there. So your chair probably needs to keep it fairly high level and saying, okay, if I were going back and reporting at the first meeting in March, something about, okay, here's what we have done, here are the articles we've already reviewed. That doesn't say we have come to a conclusion or things of that sort. It just kind of gives them an update of where you are in that process. And when you get to that point, probably in late April or May, and we're now beginning that process of wanting to draft language. The report would be we're drafting language to be brought back to you related to these articles. And that's when you're going to need the assistance of the attorney, because it needs that legal language that, we can come up with broad language, but the attorney needs to make sure it's legal language. And Scott has indicated he's willing to meet with the commission, this commission, when they are at that point of drafting, of wanting that language drafted. And I think that's a good idea. Now you have narrowed it down to, okay, here's where it is, and Scott, here's what we want to do, and now we're at the point of getting the language put together in a legal format that can be understood and voted on. That's how I would report to your governing body. Yeah, let me give him the microphone.
I'd like to make a suggestion to the commission. I think it's real admirable for us to even on. And we as a committee, we need to do our due diligence to read our charter. Let's study this charter, and then when we come to work, we can get on it and get some stuff done. But we need to read it and know it, as much as we can. And then if it's something that we don't understand, then that we can attack that. But if we read it and understand it and just know what we want to do, then I think we'll be able to work fairly quick and fairly easy, and we'll get along, won't be no bias or nothing like that, because it's in black and white. And we just have to discuss how we can change it or what we need to be changed or whatever. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Could you, if you know, I've heard on the cost that this is going to be, I've heard numbers as high as probably $50,000 through attorney fees and getting this on the ballot. And somebody said getting it on the ballot, if we go over certain many words, it really gets very, very, very expensive.
Yeah. Jerome's talked to the supervisor on that, and having had that happen, is that there are certain items when you go beyond, it has to go to a different page or something like that, then you're the ones who are responsible for that page. And that then's where it drops the pricing up over on the thing, because you're paying for all of it then.
So what you're saying is that if we, for some strange reason, say, you know what, everything looks wonderful, we're not making any changes, you're gonna get us under $50,000, right?
Well, we would save a lot of money if we just say no changes.
Right. Well, but there may be reasons why you want to change and things like that, and that discussion then will be at the commission level, and say, okay, and he should be, when you finish, they should be able to go and sit down with the supervisor elections and really come back with a firmed up cost. And because right now, actually nobody knows what that would be, because we don't know what the ballot will look like. Is this a general election ballot, or are you going into the primary? The primary in August?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a little bit different than the general election. It's probably easier to fit it in too, that August meeting, that August one too. Because this is a presidential year, and that, you'll get lost. Okay. Any other questions? So we got some items that we're going to cover at the next meeting. We'll cover the forms of government, we'll cover the questions, and then we will ask some questions about, trying to gain a consensus of the body of which articles are we going to spend our time on, and then move forward from that. Does that sound like a game plan?
Good deal, Ken.
And I'll facilitate, but I need y'all to read your charter and become very familiar with it. And then I would need you to be sure you read the questions. Okay, that packet of material from the National Civic League is good background material. And so you go through and read it, and I'll try to get you a memorandum out on the forms of government.
You ready to make a motion to close, Charlie?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
All the way down to the other, you celebrate
If you haven't had the course on